Jim Horton wants to know, when you're doing a rebuild on an item, like the cameras, do you take pictures of the item or do you trust your memory to put it back together? No, I cannot trust my memory to put complex things back together. And when seriously, I was interested in replacing and fixing something on my old milling machine, which was the automatic quill, which involves moving a couple of levers so that you get this feed to go and your quill will move down. And I had bought a replacement part, but I didn't exactly know how to install it. So I went online and found someone doing a complete rebuild of a Bridgeport head. And they were there with a screwdriver and they're unscrewing screws and tossing them into this wire bucket that they would then put into their degreaser. And I was like, you're not labeling everything? Where does that go? And all these repair videos that people do where they take apart a vise or a small toy car and they put all the items in one bin or bucket. I'm like terrified about that. It feels like I get really stressed out watching people do that. There is a watch restorer on YouTube, actually, who took apart this Omega watch. They took all the parts that they had dismantled to take to the parts cleaner, and they dropped it on their way to the parts cleaner. And they described that they lost like 4 hours picking up every part. But more than that, they had to go through the first footage of their video in order to write down everything they had pulled out. And in a way, when they talked about that on the channel, and when this goes up, I'll include a link to that video so they can go into the description. When they describe that process of having to scroll through the video frame by frame, write down what each screw was and where it went and what it looked like, and then they compared it against the list of what they had spilled. And I mean, some of these pieces are smaller than a speck of dust, that they found every last part. I found that whole process very gratifying. So no, I definitely take a lot of pictures. But first and foremost, when I'm taking something apart, I use a technique that I learned from the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. And this is a wonderful book. It's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. It's totally worth reading. It is both a deep dive into the nature of how we know what quality is, and its conclusions about that are nothing short of world-shattering for me when I first read it, and it still sticks with me. His primary thesis of the book, spoiler alert, is that most of us can agree when something is really good, but the reason why isn't what we think. He posits that objects themselves have a power to them because we define ourselves by the objects around us. And when we experience an object we find beautiful or compelling, we ascribe a value to the object, but what's really happening is a relationship between us and the object. And the two of us define ourselves with each other. I know I'm ascribing a personification to the object, but suffice to say, the central thesis of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is that quality is not a thing, it is an event. And I love that. But what was your original question? Oh, right. So it was about taking things apart. In it, he talks about driving cross country in a BMW motorcycle and how you take apart an engine and put it back together. And he talks about putting your thing you're taking apart on a large sheet. And as you take things apart, you put them in the orientation that shows you where they go back. So if you're removing these 4 screws that are pull the head off, you put them out and the extents, because you know those are the last thing you're going to do. And you keep on doing that inside, inside, inside. And I've done that a ton while taking stuff apart. I've also used a big sheet of foam core and written in pencil what each screw, this one goes here before that one, and this one goes here before that one. I make a lot of notes when I'm taking stuff apart. So the pictures totally help. They can be a pain to go through, but completely vital. In fact, I'm sure that at some point when I take apart my Samaritan gun to do some repair on it, that I'm going to have to refer back to the original build video in order to figure out a couple things. There's just too many pieces of that for me to hold all of it in my head all the time. Angie Faerie says, do you watch your own videos post-edit to see how they came together or see the fun things added in editing? There have been some fun edits lately, and I wonder if you see them. Yes, yes, I do. Look, filming yourself and watching yourself on video is a horror show. The first 100 times you do it. It's awful to watch yourself talk on video. And even today, I watch my videos and sometimes from certain angles, I can see my age and it's unpleasant because we're all vain. We all want to look great. But despite that, after you've filmed yourself a bunch and watched a bunch of your output, you start to be able to separate from the you on camera to the you in person. And you start to be able to assess with a little more objectivity the camera version of you. At least that has been my experience. And so, yeah, we hired a new shooter editor a few months ago, Josh Self, and he has been adding new humor to the videos. And it's substantively different than Gunther Kirsch, who left. And I really appreciate that. I love different senses of humor. I love learning different things about my builds and my proclivities by seeing how Norm, Joey, and Josh cut the stuff that I shoot. So I do. I also, we used to watch the rough cuts of Mythbusters, and that was just to make sure that the narrative went right. And we would watch it as a crew. But watching the show as it aired wasn't something I often did. It just seemed like, I don't know. Watching the rough cuts made sense. Watching the broadcast, I never really did that. But the tested stuff, I don't know. I mean, it's probably because it's so much less of a giant collaboration. It's much more of an intimate collaboration between this team that puts these videos out. I feel much more of a sense of responsibility to watch the videos. But also, it's really fun. Like I said, it's great to see the stuff that I'm doing and see someone else add layers to that narrative. That is genuinely enjoyable. And then I also, our YouTube comment section on Tested, I don't want to jinx it, touch wood, but our YouTube comment section is a very happy place. And I'm so grateful for that. And frequently I watch stuff just so I understand what people are talking about. And I really appreciate it in the comments when you say, oh, I liked this at this, and you put a link to where that is in the video. Thank you for those contextual compliments, because it really allows me to see what is resonating. Yeah. Just know that if you are starting out videotaping, if you're starting out filming yourself, it's going to suck for a while to watch yourself on camera. And you're really going to have to take other people's words for what is working and what isn't working. And at a certain point, that passes. Again, that is at least my experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a Tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.